Well, how much pressure is Zack Selmon under to get this baseball coaching job hire right? We'll talk about that and much more. That's coming up.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. I'm Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got a great show for you today, so sit back. Have a fun drive to work. Hey, it's Friday, all right?
Right,
have a great drive to work. Yeah, happy Friday.
Congratulations, you made it.
Yeah, you made it. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about how much pressure is Zack Selmon under to nail this baseball hire. Also, is there one less baseball coaching candidate? It seems one of them has taken themselves out of the running. And then, like we have started last week, we have a new segment every Friday. It's the last segment. It's called Next Up in Starkville. We'll tell you about what we're looking forward to the most over the weekend. All right, Landon. So let's talk about this this pressure story, and it was done by, if I remember correctly, it was done by the Magnolia Tribune, and it was talking about just how much pressure is Zack Selmon under to protect Mississippi State's baseball legacy with this next hire. Obviously, he didn't hire Lemonis, but Lemonis won a national championship, but had fallen off recently, and so he doesn't get the credit for the national championship. Selmon doesn't. So he's got a big hire on his hands. We've talked about how great of a program Mississippi State is, but just how much pressure is he under?
A lot. And if you ask some fans, they don't give Lemonis much credit for that title either.
Right, right. That's fair.
No, he's under a ton of pressure because, I mean, you see it in our comments too, where people are like, forget football. We're a baseball school.
Yeah.
I mean, and when that's the mindset, you have to hit a home run here. I mean, there's no other option. If you botch this hire, especially with how things have gone with, I mean, again, it's his first season, how things have gone so far with Levy. Everyone's still unsure about that. That's your first hire. This might be a bigger hire in terms of the impact it has. And if you don't hit this one, your tenure gets rocky real fast.
Yeah. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. So Zack Selmon, I personally think Zack Selmon took the Mississippi State job because he wanted to show he could be an athletic director. And that way, when Oklahoma and Joe Castiglione go their separate ways, when he retires, he can go back to Oklahoma. He was under Joe for years, and obviously his family is rooted there. The Selmon brothers' name, like the Selmon last name in general, is massive in the state of Oklahoma. So that's why I'm going to say it's immense pressure, not just that he gets the baseball hire right for Mississippi State, it's immense pressure for himself. Because if he doesn't show he can be an athletic director, Oklahoma ain't coming calling when they need an athletic director after Joe Castiglione steps down. So it's big for both of them. Obviously, it's big for Mississippi State because you got to get the program back on track. You won that national championship. You now need to be top-tier SEC team at just about every year. You need to be a team that hosts regionals, team that hosts some super regionals, gets to the College World Series every now and then. Every year would be great, but that's not reality.
Realistic for anyone.
Right. And so you need to be that program again. But also, for Selmon, you hired Levy as your football coach. He went 2-10. We'll see what he does this year. You're now hiring a baseball coach. You have a potential to have 2 terrible hires on your resume, and it's your only 2 hires.
Yeah, if you start an 0-2 hole, that's a tough one to come out of. And, we're not going to talk about Levy too much. We've talked about it a lot. We both think he has the potential to be a very good coach. It's going to take him some time to build what he wants to build. But, yeah, with all the names that have been thrown about, and I don't want to get too much into it because that's our next segment, is one of them seemingly being out of the running. But, I mean, you got to prove it. And the donors have to prove it, too, with backing in NIL. But the university has to be ready to throw some money at this hire, too. Because if he hires an assistant to save money and it doesn't work, And the reasoning is, well, I was told I couldn't spend more than X amount of dollars on this coach. Then, I mean, he did the best he could with what he was given. You can't, I mean, if you're not given the tools to succeed, you can't expect to succeed. So the university also has to be all in on this hire as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because obviously we talked about what Paul Feinbaum said just a few days ago, how he said they're not committed. If you want to listen to that episode, go back and watch that one. But it's an interesting. I'm glad you said because we don't know all the things that are going behind the scenes when these hires happen. Why someone had to get fired? Why this hire didn't work? It's possible, and again, we think Jeff Lebby's going to be a good coach. I don't want to harp on that, but we don't know. Maybe they weren't giving him a lot of money, like we talked about. Giving Zack Selmon a lot of money, so he had to just go find an assistant and couldn't go find a proven head coach. We don't know all that, obviously. And like Feinbaum said, he kind of insinuated that he's not sure they're committed to football.
Right.
So we don't know that side either. Like, are they putting in the resources necessary in this day and age to be competitive in that sport? Baseball, we feel like they are, and Feinbaum said that he thinks they will be for baseball. He just wasn't sure for football. And so if that's the case, if you have a school president loves baseball, he's big on baseball, and the history of Mississippi State should be able to attract just about any coach in college baseball, you have to hit a home run with this hire. You just have to. You can't hire someone and it not work because you have too many things going in your favor. Now it's up to you to make the right decision.
Yeah, and every name that we have mentioned outside of like one or two, I think, are guys that have been head coaches and not just for like 2 years. They have been head coaches for a long time
and have done well.
And if you were going to lure those guys away from those programs, you are opening the checkbook because that's what gets coaches to go places is money. There is an extent to where some of them, obviously, you have the guys who want to coach at their alma maters, kind of excluding those guys. Then you have some that after, a 25-year career, they take a little bit less because they want to coach close to their families and they're ready to be home. But the majority of them, the reason they move is money. And with the president that loves baseball, you have the history, you have the facilities, you have the fan base. You're missing the coach. And it's like, honestly, this may be outside of hiring a football coach, this is one of the most pressure-packed situations for an athletic director just because he's so new.
Right.
I mean, this is like the equivalent of hiring like the next coach at Kansas for basketball or something. Like that's kind of where you are. And it's your second hire and you're like third year on the job. Like, that's a lot of pressure.
Right. And then also, and we talked about this, I believe, on Wednesday's podcast, just how desired is the Mississippi State job. And we went through several things, the Clarion Ledger, we broke down what they went through and it was all like B or higher on grades. And that's just the truth with how good Mississippi State is as a program right now. They are just too good not to hire someone well-known in the college baseball world. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, you can't hire an assistant. There's some really good assistants out there that will make really good head coaches. I mentioned Josh Elander on like the first episode after Lamonis got fired. I mentioned Reggie Willits. Yeah.
2 days ago.
Right. And I mentioned Reggie Willits right off the bat. Like there's some really good assistant coaches out there, but this is a very sought after job by a lot of high profile coaches that you cannot go out there and hit a single, to use the baseball term. You have to go at least hit a triple. I mean, it doesn't have to be a home run, but you got to at least hit a triple here.
Yeah, you got to at least find the gap. I mean, first, I don't have the speed to ever get a triple. So, I mean, I'm sure. Right. No, you have to get it right. And there are so many coaches that, even though they've had success, this would be a step up in terms of prestige.
Right.
Winning at some of these programs, like it would mean more to win.
And just the backing of the university. You'll have it quite a bit more at Mississippi State than a lot of these coaches.
And I mean, worst case scenario, you're playing in probably a much nicer field and stadium than you were before.
Right. And you mentioned coaches a lot of coaches make the decision for money, but they also make it they want to know how committed the university is.
Yeah.
And this is a university obviously with a great baseball background and is very committed to baseball. And so that's why I put it at Zack Selmon's feet, because this isn't one of those that it's like you wanted to hire this coach, he was ready to come, and your university's like, we're not paying that. This isn't one of those cases. At least it doesn't feel like it. Maybe it is. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like if they want a coach and he wants to come, they're going to pay up for it.
Yeah, there probably is a dollar amount, but that probably only excludes like hiring someone off of like a top 5 team or something that isn't.
Or like you're not pulling Bruce Bochy down to the Mississippi State level. Okay, that's not going to happen.
To hire.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of stuff isn't going to happen. But yeah, you should have your pick of just about anyone you want.
Just about anyone. And so it's up to Selmon to bring the right guy in and for the university to put the money where the mouth is and be like, yeah, he's our guy. Here's the check.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, he's not only not going to be at Mississippi State any longer, he's probably not going to be the replacement of Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma.
Going to be anywhere.
And so he's either got to go back to being an assistant somewhere, which I don't even know if those will be around much longer with the GM role now in a lot of sports, or he's going to have to go be an athletic director at a small school and work his way back up. So a lot of pressure for him for sure. All right, coming up next, has one of these baseball candidates that we've mentioned several times, has he taken himself out of the running for the job? We'll talk about it. But did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair of controllers, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's on your Fire TV. This is one of my favorite things. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console like I do. A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or possibly your kids' games wherever you plug in. That would be great for travel. I want to sell my console right now and get me a Fire TV Stick just because I think it's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. I'm a big-time gamer. Love it. Love playing with friends. Love just that social time. So definitely, I would recommend this device. Well, head to Amazon.com, Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, that is the third generation. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, so Georgia's coach, Wes Johnson, seems to have taken himself out of the running for the job. He's obviously heard the rumors, kind of connecting him to the Mississippi State job. However, he denies any interest in the coaching vacancy and having any interest. He said his interest, or his focus, rather, is going to remain on the team in Athens. He said, I love Georgia. I have no plans to venture to Starkville. I'll just say that. Well, what's your thoughts there?
First off, one of my favorite ways someone has ever said they're not interested in a job. I have no plans to venture to Starkville. What are we, Old West movie?
Right.
But no, for a great quote, I kind of believe him. I guess I'd probably put about 80%. I believe him because, like I mentioned last segment, money is what gets people to move. If he got a check for more than he's making now and a guarantee from the university that they will support him more than what Georgia is supporting him, then I think he comes. Because another part of that quote was about the facilities and what's going on there. And he talked about how he loves it, but he wants more.
Right.
So
and that's
more.
I think that's a shot to his upper management at Georgia. Like, you see this job over here? Hey, this is what I want. You want to keep me? This is what I want. Just going over what he said. It's not a no.
Yeah,
it's not a no.
Just said he hadn't booked his ticket yet, basically.
Yeah, he said, I have no plans to venture to Starkville. He didn't say I'm not going. And he also didn't expand on it. He just said a quick little, I love
and
Georgia.
He
No
also
plans.
Hemmed and hawed around it for a few minutes before he got there. It
Right.
wasn't just no, I have no plans. It was.
Now, I will say part of that is probably being used as a negotiation tactic to Georgia, maybe to get a new contract, maybe to get new facilities, maybe to get more NIL backing, whatever it is. And so maybe that's why he didn't want to expand on why he wouldn't leave to Mississippi State. Because if you expand and really make it known you're not going, then why is Georgia going to pony up all this money? Yeah, your leverage is gone. And so it's part of that, but how many times have we seen this in the past where coaches say something quick, I'm not going to go be the head coach there. And that's exactly where they go. I mean, we saw Nick Saban.
I saw one last year.
Yeah, right. And we saw it with Nick Saban when he left the Dolphins. I'm not taking the Alabama job. He took the Alabama job. There was Lincoln Riley. I guess technically he didn't take the LSU job.
I mean, there was
the USC job.
But there was Les Miles who left Oklahoma State saying he wasn't taking the LSU job.
Right. And so it happens all the time. And I understand it's a hard spot for the coaches when they're asked about this, because if you just say no right then, you lose all leverage. Like if you emphatically state, no, we're not doing that, I'm staying here, blah, 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 and this is why, you lose all leverage with the school you have. Also, if you say no, and it's because at that time you really don't want to take it, but over time, negotiations change and more money's offered and this is offered. And it's like, man, I can't pass that up. Now you look like you're a liar, even though you were telling the truth at that time.
Right.
You weren't going to take it, but something changed. And that's why I took it. So you're in basically a lose-lose, because even if you say emphatically, no, I'm not going, no one's going to believe you.
No.
Not until Mississippi State hires a coach.
And that's why I have no plans is a great answer, because that still leaves the door open. And not only, it can also be a negotiating tactic to get more money offered from Mississippi State. It's like, yeah, we've talked, but I mean, he didn't say we've talked, but it's kind of like, yeah, right now, no plans. Give me a little bit more, maybe I make those plans.
Yeah, or Georgia doesn't pony up the money. Maybe then I
have
my plans. Yeah, that's that's the thing. You'll just never know. And, we mentioned him as one of 4 candidates yesterday. No, that was actually Wednesday's podcast. Yes. And so I don't think it's like, hey, we're going all in on him. If he says no, we're going to have to go get some coach that's not ready for this job. I don't think that's the case. I think it's one of those things that Mississippi State's probably feeling everything out. And I think with Georgia, they're one of the best teams in the country. I feel like he might have just wanted to get on top of this to kind of lower the distraction a little bit, because you got the SEC tournament you're coming up. They're likely going to host a regional and a super regional for that matter, because of how good they are this year. I think it's just maybe you're trying to keep that under wraps. Let's not make this a distraction.
Yeah, you don't want it to get out to the team, rumors that you're leaving, even if they're mostly unsubstantiated, and it distracts the team while you're in the postseason. So that's probably a lot of it too, which, you got to respect the guys doing that. But I think Mississippi State's going to do the right thing, put a lot of feelers out. That's probably the extent of the conversation that they've had with him. And, that's probably a lot of why they probably went ahead and fired Lemonis, was they can go ahead and kind of start putting feelers out now. And so it's very early in the process, and, plans change. We see that all the time.
Yeah. And I think personally that like Paul Feinbaum said, and we talked about this a couple days ago, I think they fired Lemonis when they fired him because they knew who they were going after. And they wanted to get a jump start. At least they knew a few of them. And he was referencing, they knew they didn't want to hire from within. They were going for someone. Right. But I think they knew who they were going to come after and go after. And they kind of had an idea who they wanted, and they were kind of zeroing in on him. I wouldn't be surprised if negotiations aren't going on right now with that candidate, whoever it is. Yeah. I'm not in the know. I don't know who it is, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Are you off your Mangione?
Right. Wait a minute. Hey, it was the perfect time that would have taken place. But I just personally think that they kind of had an idea who they were going after. And that also might be the case where they have zeroed in on their guy. Wes Johnson hasn't heard from Mississippi State because he's not the top guy. And he's like, hey, I don't have any plans because they haven't reached out yet. We just never know.
Yeah, and I think they probably had a list. It was probably 5 people long I mean,
yeah, typically that's
the
right.
big list was probably much longer than that, but they probably had 5 top candidates, and they've reached out to all of them, kind of like, "Hey, what's your interest level? Then we can talk." And
right.
I bet he was one of those 5 or 6 at the top, and maybe that was the extent, was talk to me after the season. It could have been that.
It could have been, yeah. And also, I always love that we haven't talked, and it's like, yeah, because they've talked to your agent. So technically, you are right.
They had dinner with your agent and your wife yesterday. Like,
right. Your wife's over buying a house because your agent got you a deal. Yeah, that kind of stuff. You always got to love that. But all right, coming up next, we got to do our next up in Starkville. We'll tell you what we're looking forward to this weekend. That's coming up.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights: when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. We've all been there. And now I budget smarter and save more. All in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. These easy collaboration, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon. So what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I was hoping to be looking forward to some softball, but that game didn't go our way. So, I mean, it's about the baseball series this weekend. We got Ole Miss coming to town for 3 games, and it's a big one.
Right.
I mean, if you take 2 of 3, maybe sweep, the regional's still an option for you.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a big series. That's what I'm watching this weekend.
Yeah. That's the obvious one because that's the only one going on right now. So I almost went that way too. But I will say this. I am looking forward to this. Truthfully, I am looking forward to this. The softball regional gets announced this weekend. It gets announced on Sunday. And so that is something that I am actually looking forward to. And I want to see where this team is because, especially now when you're not hosting a regional, it's all about, and it's always about matchups. I don't want to say it's only because you're not hosting a regional, but that means a lot because if you get put in a regional against a team you're just overmatched against, let's say Texas or Oklahoma, it's like, okay, this is where it's going to end. But if you get in a regional, and you mentioned some of the teams earlier, you get in a regional, maybe Tennessee, I don't know, just some of those teams, maybe you beat them and then get out of that regional. And Tennessee's very good. I was just throwing out a team, but there's some teams you're just overmatched against, and going in, okay, regional final is probably where this road ends, like best case scenario. And so I'm interested to see where that is, and that's going to be for those that don't know, that's going to be Sunday, and that'll be at 6:00 at night, and then the regionals will take place on the 16th through the 18th. So next week is when those will take place. But yeah, I just want to see the matchups. And I will say this before I get into that, you might even see a 3 seed because I'm sure Mississippi State will probably be the 2 seed. You might see a 3 seed and you're like, oh, that's not a good matchup for us.
Yeah, that's the thing with these softball regionals. You see it every now and then, like a 2 seed's in there, and it's a shocker that they're not a 1 seed hosting a regional. They assumed they were going to, and then they're a 2 seed, and you end up the 3 seed in that regional, and you're just like, well, this got way more difficult than I thought it was going to. Yeah. But the only team that matchups don't matter for is OU. And
right. So I'm interested to see where they are. Obviously, this baseball series is massive, and we'll break that down on let's see, Monday. And so that would be a massive series if you can somehow steal. You should have won a midweek game against them a couple weeks ago. That was with Lamonis. Lamonis is not there anymore, so let's see if you can pull it out.
I can't wait for the regionals. That's one of my favorite things is the softball regionals.
Yeah, no, a lot of fun. The whole playoff in general for the softball and baseball too, but softball is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Also, follow us on Locked On Mississippi State. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We post daily videos Monday through Friday. So check out that. Comment on our poll. We always post a question on every YouTube video. We post questions. We want to hear your feedback on that. We also post a poll that usually gets posted a couple hours after the episode drops. So comment on that as well. If there's a topic you want us to discuss, want our opinion on something, we've already pulled topics from some of the comments. So let us know that as well. And hopefully we get a big win this weekend against Ole Miss, and we have a lot of happy things to talk about on Monday. But until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.